Okay, yeah, I think the link between the last session and this one is clear because we were talking about skills in relation to AI. And one of the new skills that I never heard of like 2 years ago is prompt engineering. So it's a new skill you have to apply. And the thing is, it's really simple. So if you would ask a person a question, if you ask a generic, for example, if you ask me, so can you tell me something about e-learning? I can probably talk about for hours. But if you make that question more specific and ask me, so can you tell me how we can actually use e-learning in the onboarding process of new employees that have a very technical function, and well, add more details to that, then probably you get a better answer. So asking that question to AI is what we call prompt engineering, because the question is the prompt and creating it is the engineering of the prompt. So we will be talking about prompt engineering. And so we have Karthik from Gen Z here to actually tell us a bit more about prompt engineering and the do's and don'ts around that. So it will be actually a very practical session where you learn how to get more out of the existing AI engines. And we also have Abby who joined us now, I think from South Africa even today, who will show us what those prompts will do in Easy Generator, and also will shine a short light on other AI functions that are already available that will help you do a better job as an author. So Karthik, if you click your presentation mode for the PowerPoint, you're good to go. And maybe, Karthik, can you give yourself a short introduction before we start? Oh, and maybe I should one step back. First, Abby, maybe you can introduce yourself first, and then we'll give the word to Karthik. So then...
Not a problem. Not a problem. So I'm Abby. I'm the team lead for onboarding here at Easy Generator. So I actually sort of run the team that does all the fantastic training on our tool. So we definitely see a lot of AI use at the moment. Definitely would be nice to give you all a glimpse of that and how to best use it in Easy Generator after we've had all that fantastic information today from Karthik as well.
Okay, so we'll see you at the end of this session. So,
yes.
Karthik, can you introduce yourself in a bit more detail and then start presenting?
Sure. Firstly, thank you, Easy Generator, for having me. And I guess poor choice of shirt. I know it is doing a bit of a disco, so sorry about that. So a bit about myself. I'm Karthik Upadrasta. I'm the CTO co-founder of Gen Z Technologies. Prior to joining Gen Z, I was at Citigroup for over 16 years, where my last role was that of senior vice president of technology. So I have over 17 years of total industry experience in technology, and prior to that, I have a master's and bachelor's degrees in computer science, and a few certifications that I can boast of in technology as well. So I carry a good amount of experience in the whole technology space, running technical teams, etc. So that's a bit about me. If you are good to go with the presentation, I can jump right in. So, most of you have
presentation mode, please, Karthik.
Oh, are you not able to see my screen?
Yeah, I'm able to see your screen, but I see the screen with the slides that you can edit. We don't see your presentation.
Oh, okay. So that's the problem with the technology folks, I suppose. Yeah. How about now? Is that better?
Feel like an edit mode. Can you just click the presentation button on the bottom? Doesn't that work?
Hang on. Probably I'm sharing the wrong screen.
Yeah, that could be the case.
All right. I think you should be able to see the right thing now.
You're not sharing anymore. Yes, now it's perfect. Yeah, that was it. Oh, now it's gone. You had it for a second, so you have it in you.
Yeah. I think it should be good now.
I don't see a screen yet. Yes, there it is. Perfect. Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So most of you have been, hearing terms around LLMs, GPTs, generative AI. So what's the difference between them? So LLM. So LLM is basically any any AI model which is built on a large number of parameters that go into the billions, and we have been even hearing about trillions of parameters coming up. So that's LLM, and GPT is kind of an LLM, which is basically, it has a specific architecture in place, which is called the transformer architecture. So all GPTs are basically LLMs, whereas the opposite, that LLMs are not, not all LLMs are GPTs. So that's the basic difference between an LLM and a GPT. Um, so again, going further into the details, GPT specifically is a series of language models which OpenAI has developed. So it's the transformer architecture that's designed by them, and so there, as I mentioned, it's a specific type of architecture called the transformers, which use the encoder decoder models. So that's the basic definition of GPTs without going into further details. LLM is basically any large scale model which can be used for generating, understanding, and working with human language. LLMs can have various technologies and various architectures um, and various methodologies, whereas GPT is a specific architecture uh, in the LLM space. So going into prompts, which is what this session is about. So basically anything you use to give a stimulus to the LLM is a prompt. So it can be as simple as asking it a simple question. For example, if you're working on a specific set of prompts, even the word "go ahead," even the phrase "go ahead" can be considered as a prompt. So any sort of textual or verbal input that we provide to the AI system is the prompt. So for example, write a brief summary of on the theory of relativity. It could be as simple as that. So later in the deck, I'll be talking about good prompts versus bad prompts. Again, I don't consider any prompt to be bad. Basically, there are no bad prompts. It's just that some prompts are better than the others. So we'll go into details of about that. But as I mentioned, a prompt can be as simple as a single sentence or as complex as a multi-paragraph instruction. It could have a series of questions in them. It can be a mix of topics. It can be anything. Right? It's just natural language where you pose a question to the LLM and it responds with an answer. Now, the objective of my presentation is to guide you or give you tips on how to get the most of the LLM that you're working with. So that goes around the choice of prompt, giving it the right context, giving it the intent. That all goes into creating a good prompt. So moving on. So prompt engineering. So as Casper mentioned earlier, it's a relatively new field that is coming up in the generative AI space and in the natural language processing space. So basically, it's engineering where you have prompts that are meant to be clear and specific. So basically, again, when we go into the further slides, you will see that we focus on the word specific, because the more specific you are with your prompt, the more the better the answer will be based on what your needs are. Designing prompts to guide the AI model. So that's how prompt engineering, the whole discipline of prompt engineering has evolved. Now, if you go into Google and just search for prompt engineering, you'll find tons of articles on, again, what constitutes a good prompt, how to prompt ChatGPT in specific, and things like that. So there is a whole ecosystem which is developing around the prompt space, which is generically categorized as prompt engineering. Um, so again, developing prompts that reduce the likelihood of AI generating biased or controversial content. So there is the ethical guidelines also surrounding the prompt engineering aspects. Um, again, as I mentioned, there is no good prompt or bad prompt, although we will refer to them as such because a few prompts are better than the others. But you know, if you give a prompt, it's not the end. You can keep refining it. You can iterate over the prompt. So we'll go into a few examples around those as well. So a well-structured prompt. So a prompt has a few um, phrases that you know constitute a well-structured prompt. So when you give a prompt, you're basically giving it a command or an action. So that's what you intend the LLM to do. So say for example, we start with summarize the following text, right? And so the system is not going to understand what you're talking about. So for that, you give context. The context is about what the type of topic that you intend the LLM system to talk about, right? And you can give it additional data. So you see in ChatGPT 4, the latest release, they started support of inputting documents. So you can give additional content or data to the as part of the prompt. Um, you can give additional instructions. Again, you can see the word specific is specified multiple times in this slide as well, to give you an idea of how important being specific in your prompt is. So you can ask it for the way you want the output to be. So you want it to as a one paragraph summary, or you want it to give you a bulleted list, or you want it to give you code. It can do all of that. Uh, so some LLMs are, again, I'm refraining from using the word GPT because it's a specific kind of architecture. But LLMs in general, they can do multiple things. So some LLMs are specifically catered to generating code as opposed to generating text. So there are LLMs again which are specific to a particular vertical. So
Can I ask
um,
a question briefly? There's something that comes up in the chat. Tim is asking, is it recommended to give ChatGPT examples of text you wish to receive? So an example as like this is what kind of response I want. Because he says if I do, then instead of using that in a proper way, it sort of focuses on my example instead of creating new content. So is there a way to give examples, or should you describe them to ChatGPT? How does that work?
Sure. So basically, there are different types of prompts in addition to what we have spoken so far. There are zero-shot prompting. These are prompting techniques, right? There is a zero prompt, zero-shot prompts. There are a few shot prompting techniques, etc. So what this what our friend is talking about here is few shot prompts, wherein you give specific examples of how you would like your output to look like. So yeah, that is perfectly acceptable. See, again, the end result of the prompt is to give you an output to your liking, right? So you can keep iterating. If you don't like the way the system is responding, you can always refine it further.
But is there a
So
specific way that you can explain to ChatGPT this is an example, so don't process it, just create something like that? Is that just in
yes,
the
so
wording?
definitely, especially in ChatGPT, you can delimit your examples using characters such as backticks. If you give the examples in a couple of backticks, or maybe use parentheses, square brackets, whatever you can use to kind of um, give your intent that this is what I would like the output to be, as opposed to it considering it as part of your input. That would make it more clear what the intent is. So using specific characters in your prompt to kind of instruct it that this is what I would like the output to be. That kind of. So we'll go further into the next slides. We'll see examples of what are some specific use cases where you could use those.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so prompt engineer, as it mentions here, it's a relatively new role that has emerged with the rise of the things such as generative AI. So again, we can see that it is particularly for those who are working on large language models. It's a whole discipline which has been coming up. Um, they deal with things such as the modes in ChatML, prompt decomposition. So it's again, it can go as technical as you want. It can be as high level as you want. So I think it's wonderful that this is evolving. Okay, so this is a small simple joke that I put together, to kind of um keep it light. Why don't prompt engineers get lost? Because they always eventually find the right words to navigate any conversation. So again, here you see the bot is asking, the person, the human is asking, how come you never told me this thing? And the bot simply responds, but you never asked, right? So that's the kind of thing. The LLM it's trained on huge amounts of data. It's just a matter of giving it the right prompt to get the answer that you seek. So again, as we spoke earlier, there are different types of prompts. There is the zero shot prompt, the few shot prompt, the one shot prompt, a chain of thought. So again, this can go into as technical as we would like, but to give you a high level idea, the zero shot prompt is basically where you simply pose your question without giving it any examples. Whereas one shot prompt is where you give the prompt along with an example of how you would like the response to look like. A few shot prompt gives it a few more examples. There is also the many shot prompt where you give many examples. So it's short is just like giving it an example of what you're looking for. Um, so again, the chain of thoughts, the zero shot chain of thought, these are a few advanced concepts in the world of prompt engineering, but I don't think most of us will be using them. So prompting tips, again, as we spoke earlier, talk to the AI like you would with a normal person. Always provide the context and use action words such as illustrate,
Can I
describe.
mention on the first thing, Karthik? Because I hear different things on that. So some people say that you should be really strict and clear, and you can just
Exactly.
sort of give it like an order. And other people, if you are polite, and you get better response. Is there anything to say about that?
Being polite, I don't think it really matters. I basically, whenever I speak with ChatGPT, I basically order it to do things. I typically find the responses suiting my needs. So I don't think being polite really matters. But again, being direct, giving it a few examples, being specific, staying on topic, these are some of the things that have worked for me. And that's what I would typically advise people. Um, Providing the context is very important because it needs to know what you're talking about. Again, we'll go into a few specific examples later in the slides. Uh, but yeah, to answer your question, Casper, being direct and being staying on topic is very important. So again, as we spoke earlier, having the one shot, few shot approaches that will definitely help, as the other gentleman or has asked earlier. Um, Assuming identity. So this is the kind of where you would like to be a bit more creative, right? You can ask ChatGPT to assume the role of a certain persona and give the responses similar to that persona would typically, right? So for example, you could ask it to say, you're caring for an elderly parent. You can ask ChatGPT or the LLM to describe what uh, Amazon Echo Alexa device does, right? So these are some of the things you can play around. You can these things again as you keep working on the prompt, as you keep asking more questions to ChatGPT, you will find ways that that basically it keeps becoming clearer and clearer to you what works and what doesn't.
So there was a question on that in the chat, indeed. So somebody, Katerina, was asking. So I heard I can change ChatGPT to my needs if you indeed do ask her to answer it as in a certain role. So she used an L&D specialist. So answer this question like an L&D specialist, but she didn't notice a big difference. But it is a good way to improve your prompt.
Yes, definitely. So I have seen results wherein, then again, it depends on what persona you would like it to take. there are some specific use cases wherein it works better. So again, you have to keep iterating the prompt, keep, you know, trying to get to the goal where what you have in mind, in order to get there, right? So you can keep iterating and working on the prompt.
Okay, thank.
So going into a few specifics on good versus the bad prompts. Again, being specific, as we have spoken so far, is very critical. That's a differentiator between a good prompt and a bad prompt, in my opinion. So you can see here the example says, ask the GPT to write a blog post about cooking skills, whereas a better prompt would have been, to write a blog post about the best ways to improve the cooking skills, right? So in this case, you would find that the GPT is responding with curated content. And so I have given these prompts, both the prompts specifically, and I have noticed significant difference. So the cooking skills, it kind of gives you the how, uh, or the, sorry, it gives you the why, whereas the other one gives you the how to improve the cooking skills. So you can play around with these good prompts versus bad prompts to kind of see the differences. Again, we have spoken about the next one, to not mix topics. So, for example, a bad prompt example would be to create a course paragraph on how to improve the technical skills and how to excel in the education, right? Obviously, we are, you know, uh, this is kind of not a very normal prompt, but again, staying on a topic is very critical. It's it fetches good results as long as you work on a prompt, which with a specific topic in mind. Okay, moving on. Again, be more specific. So this goes on to what I've been saying earlier, to be very specific about what your needs are. Um, you can ask the GPT to add emojis. You can ask it to add bulleted lists, add numbered lists. How you want the format, output format of the response to be. You can again ask it for code as a developer, as the CTO, heading a development team. Again, we ask GPT for code, for specific codes in programming languages, and it kind of gives good results there, as long as you're specific what your objective is, right? So these are some of the tips here. Again, being very specific about what your goals are, using keywords. So, for example, here, one of the bad prompts asks to create a course outline for communications. So it is going to respond to you. It will give you a good generic information based on how a communications course should look like. Versus if you ask it, specific details about, by using keywords such as what typically is a good communication course contents about the clarity of tone, the body language, confidence, clarity, and things like such as. So if you use keywords which are specific to the context that you're working with, it fetches you better results.
Can I ask something on that? Because it also comes up in the chat, an experience I had myself as well.
Sure.
You ask a question to ChatGPT and it gives you not the right answer, or it's incomplete, or you're not happy with it. And you sort of then ask a second question on that. It sort of takes that into account. So we have an example of Elise saying it actually apologized. Oh, sorry, I got misunderstood you. So this is the right answer. So it is also possible to sort of start like a conversation with ChatGPT, building on your prompt. It doesn't have to be a single line. Is that correct?
Yeah, it doesn't have to be in a single line. You can keep iterating on the prompt. So say, for example, you start with a new chat on the top left, right? And you keep conversing with ChatGPT. And at some point, you realize that it's not responding the way you want it to, and you're not reaching your goal. You can always go create a new chat. So what happens is the outputs and the inputs that we are giving the chat, they kind of keep feeding back into ChatGPT. So that kind of becomes adding to the context, right? And
Correct.
it might sometimes lead to incorrect answers, or answers that what what you are not looking for. So in such cases, what I typically do is click on the new chat and start a fresh conversation. Again, taking into account all the things that I have learned in my previous chat so far. So I'm going to use more specific keywords, ask it to maybe take personas and things like that. So that kind of improves the quality of the answer it generates.
Okay.
So again, that goes into what I have here, to be iterative. Keep prompting it till you get the answer that you're seeking. Um, so again, there are a couple of good examples here. So again, don't be afraid to give it long prompts as long as you're staying on topic. Setting the context is important, and again, staying on topic is important. And there are these ELI techniques, things such as explain it like I am. So if I am specifically looking for, scientific related material, I'm also always going to start by asking it things. My prompt is going to look like explain it like I'm a 10-year-old, right? I'll start with that. I'll get some idea as to what that particular topic that I'm researching is about, and pick up from there, right? So I think the ELI technique is very, very useful in researching a new concept, because it kind of sets the context that what you want to learn. So it kind of gives you some context for yourself that you can relate to later when it starts going into more details based on the further prompts that you give it.
Okay.
So providing feedback. So instead of just saying, say for example, rewrite a title, can say again, give it clear instructions as to how you would like the next iteration to be. So you can say rewrite the course to make it more concise and clear, rewrite the course to include these specific keywords and things like that. What else? So a few more prompting tips, using shots, things such as single, one shot, few shot, many shot, giving it examples. So this comes in very handy when you want to use ChatGPT for translations. Um, you can kind of also give examples as to how polite you want the responses to be. So that's the kind of things that you can do with ChatGPT specifically. Um, and finally, you can ask it to assume identity. We have spoken about this as well. So taking personas, it kind of gets into the shoes, so to speak, and gives you an answer from that perspective. So I think that's also a big help when working with ChatGPT. What else? And finally, so this is one thing that I typically do. Whatever new topic that I'm working with, um, I try to use some common sense based on the answers that it generates. It's not always right. We all know that already, right? So it hallucinates. Um, Again, being specific in your need, providing it context, that goes a big way to kind of reduce these hallucinations. But we have to be wary of them. That ChatGPT can potentially give us incorrect information. So I think that's where I would end this. And if you have any questions, I can take them.
Yeah, there are a couple of questions, but we'll first go to Abby to sort of demonstrate how this would work out if you actually use that. And then we'll come back shortly for a couple of questions after that.
Sure.
Absolutely.
That's
Thank you. I'm just making sure that I am sharing the right screen as well. So we'll get that in. Hopefully you can see my easy generator screen. So firstly, thank you, Karthik, for all that really good information. I think that is something that I've kind of used with a bit of your inspiration to create some prompts to chuck into our easy AI version of AI today, just to show everyone how you can really utilize it and make the most. So just for anyone who's not necessarily familiar with Easy Generator, in our content creation pages, we do have our nice easy AI up in the corner here, and we have Ask AI, which is where we can get our generative AI that we'll be looking at just for now. Now, in here, you can pop in your prompts just like you can with ChatGPT, and it really can open up a lot of doors for you with your course creation when it comes to creating learning and just kind of speeding up that process, but helping you out with what to include in your courses as well. So I have created a couple of prompts here, which I will pop in and we can see exactly what they pull out. And I'll explain how I would perhaps use these to help me making a course in the tool. Starting with actually what we would consider maybe one of the bad prompts, but I do agree with Karthik that there's not really any bad prompt. There's simply kind of less descriptive prompts. And that would give us this one, which is create a course outline for a course on prompt engineering. Now, this can work as a prompt. If you come into the tool and all you know is you want a course on prompt engineering, fantastic. Giving Ask AI this prompt here might give you all that you need, because it'll certainly give you some great inspiration for a course. It'll give you some outline points, ideas for sections, and so on. Now, that could be great. As I say, if you have no idea what you want to put into a course, absolutely fantastic for inspiration, but you're going to get a lot of information here. Now, you will notice as well that we've got information on weeks of learning, whereas perhaps I just wanted a simple e-learning course or maybe a micro-learning. So with that in mind, perhaps this might not be the most useful prompt, but I can definitely get some information from there. So thinking more down the lines of actually creating those really effective prompts where we ask something in that's more specific. So now I'm talking about, I have a course idea in mind. I know who I am. This kind of is a good place to start, knowing who you are. And I do have a plan for that course. I just want to know what to put into it. I can now put in a little bit more information. Here I've actually told someone who I am. So I've said that I'm a learning and development professional at a traditional accountant firm. I've explained that I'm creating an e-learning course, that it's on AI prompt engineering, and it's for my accountants that are not very tech savvy and have a fear of AI. I also gave my specific structure, so those main focus points and a kind of average completion time and what I expect to get from that course by simply stating up here that this course should take approximately 20 minutes and the content should be engaging and memorable. So I've then asked the AI to create a detailed course plan for me, and it's done exactly that. So I have a breakdown of that whole course description. I have points that I could address in those lessons, so that perhaps these could be sections of a course or maybe individual micro learnings. It's really up to you. But I do have this full breakdown that I can now go ahead and use and actually plant into an e-learning moving forward. So there's all sorts of uses for this. That's really great. Again, lots of information, and maybe I'd kind of be taking this out and plugging it into a course moving forward. So this is really great. This does give me content to then put into the course. And I do want to give it a little bit of a test here. I hadn't actually planned this prompt, but I know that this works. So I did see someone's message in the chat saying something about, if you do, for example, give the AI your role or explain who you are, then it can give different responses. So let's just show you how that one can work. So I did in the previous prompt explain to the AI that I am a learning and development professional. So in this point, I could say, right, I have my outline for the course, but what else could I do to help my learners out outside of this course once I've created it? Because I'm a little bit lost on how to still enforce that AI adoption. I can pop this in, and the AI will then give me lots of nice points of extra things that I could do with my learners to make sure that they really feel compelled to use AI, not just in terms of using this course itself. We have things like feedback and improvement. We have coaching in there, mentorship, and all of those additional training opportunities too. So not only can you use it to create the course itself, but you can use it for all that extra help for yourself while you create. So then, this is a little bit on how you could, of course, create that outline and maybe what your training needs would be. Now, I'm just going to pop in a slightly shorter prompt that does go with all of this. And this one will ask us to create a compelling piece of text that will encourage accountants to use AI regardless of their understanding of technologies. So this is actually hinting more at a piece of text that we could use directly in the training. I know what the focus of that piece of text would be. I know what the point is I'm trying to hit, but now I just want AI to create something for me that gives me that piece of text and the explanation that will go through, and I can use this. So at this point, I have my nice piece of text here. And what we can do in Easy Generator is, with all of this and all of that nice persuasive writing, is I can create a new block and pop that straight into my course. So this is really helpful. I have the text there. I can use it as I need. It's really nice and clear. Now, with the text in place, I'm going to show you another fun fact about the AI that we do have in the tool, which takes it that step further once you do have all of these points in place. Now, what I can do here is I can actually come in and I can highlight all of this text that the AI has created for me, and I can use my quick actions right at the bottom and start to use the extra functions that we have here. Now, in terms of these longer pieces of writing, whether I've generated it using Easy AI or written it myself, I do have some great options. So I can simplify my writing, summarize it, generate bullet points. But what I would like to show you for right now is the generating questions function. Now, what we can do here is, using any text, again, this could be generated from our Ask AI, or you could put in your own text. You are able to select that text, choose a question type out of these four here, and then have the AI actually generate questions for you. So this is really handy. We do know that in learning, questions are key. We need them to quiz people. We need them for knowledge checks. There's all sorts of different things, even just to add a little bit of interactivity. And putting these into your course is absolutely necessary. Having said that, whenever we're tight on time, whenever we're not quite sure what to put into our courses, typically questions are the first things to suffer because they do require a bit of thought on our part. Now, the beauty with this is I just have to put in my text, and then I can go ahead, select the question that I want to use, and add that straight into my course. And I've not really had to do any extra work on that. That question is popped right in here in the course itself and will be there for me to use in my training. So question generation, absolutely fantastic, really eases the creation stage for you and makes sure that you can use questions with no excuse in every single training. So that's quite a bit there about different ways to use the prompts, ways to actually create the text and use it in a course. And I'd like to just pop back into Ask AI and give you one more insight here, which is when we do talk about using kind of those layerings of prompts and making sure that we can make the most out of everything that we do generate here. And this is when we could talk about asking this a follow-up question that might help us with another piece of content. So I did see someone as well asked in the chat about if you could ask the AI to actually rewrite this at a specific level. Yes, that is possible. Perhaps if you have accessibility requirements or you need that text to be more simple, you could do something like ask it to rewrite this at an 8th grade writing level. That's completely possible. You can also do things like inputting extra prompts that will get you more content on top of this. So for example, here I could say I would really like a voiceover for this page using the same information, but just to make it more accessible. I could then put in a prompt about using text-to-speech, to create engaging voiceovers for the e-learning. Can the AI come up with some text to leverage and create voiceover for it? So I can then send this off. I'll have my prompt returned to me. I'll have my feedback returned to me, that does give me all that information and a really nice piece of text to add into text-to-speech. And then using the tool itself, I could perhaps go in here, copy out a piece of this text, and all I need to do is paste it into text-to-speech itself. We can do that straight on the narration right here. text-to-speech and pop in our text. And then once I've actually chosen my language and my voice, I'll have that generated right there for me, and I'll have my text-to-speech that is possible to be used straight in the tool, again, generated by AI, in an AI voice, but with my content that I've fed it. So I think that's pretty much everything to show you there. It's a nice little, very quick insight into AI and how to use it in Easy Generator. Of course, that's a few things, but I do recommend having a bit of a play yourselves. Yeah, that's everything from me.
Thank you, Abby. So we are already 10 minutes over time, so I just want to pick up a few questions. So we will share the presentation with you. It's actually downloadable in the tool right now, and we also will share a recording of the sessions with you after the session. So those are two questions. A couple of other things that came into the question. So an interesting one was, maybe if you have no idea what to put in a course, you shouldn't be writing one. So I think that's a fair remark. So, but indeed, this is more like if you do have that idea, then you can actually improve on that as well. Molly, did you pick up on any questions we need to address in the chat while we're at it?
There were quite a few questions, some about Easy AI. So if you did want to learn more about Easy AI specifically, there's a little pop-up in the bottom left-hand corner, so you can talk to one of the Easy Generator experts about that if you were interested. Yeah, I'm looking back now because there are a lot of messages.
Yeah, maybe one that I can pick up. So
Yeah.
what makes this better than ChatGPT? So in fact, it is using ChatGPT for now. So to be frank, we built it in to be like an early adapter with AI. We want to learn from it. But I think the parts that Abby showed you. So for example, if you do like asking ChatGPT or OpenAI or ask AI to create like a course introduction that can be helpful, I think when you use specific information like the question generation, then it becomes more interesting, and we're working on expanding on that. So actually allowing you to upload information, that combining that with didactical information, and then creating an outline for you. So it becomes more interesting over time, but we're building on that step by step. So the difference is not that big yet, but it is growing week by week.
So one final remark from me, Casper. One of the comments is, "Are you not going to validate it?" It's a very fair comment. I think whoever is using this tool, right, should always validate the content, because some of it be hallucination as well. So I think whatever content you're getting out of using the Easy AI or even ChatGPT for that matter, or any LLM for that matter, it should always be validated.
Correct. And I also saw the question on languages. So basically, it's like with any AI tool, if you ask a question in another language than English, for example, in German or French or whatever, you get that answer back in that language. So the answer there is yes.
Perfect. Then, yeah, just in the interest of time, I think it makes sense to wrap up now. So yeah, Abby and Karthik, thank you so much for your time today. Really enjoyed the session. And of course, yeah, thank you to everyone for attending. Really great questions, and love the enthusiasm in the chat. As you know, this is a 2-day event. So we have eLearning Pioneers again tomorrow. We kick off at 3 o'clock Central European time, so that's 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have 3 really great sessions. Casper, maybe you want to introduce those briefly, just the topics, and then have a final word as well.
Yeah, I have to say I enjoyed today a lot, although it was 3.5 hours, so it's a long ride, but I picked up a lot of it. So indeed, tomorrow we'll continue. So the first one is about creating AI videos based on text. So we'll talk to somebody who's working with a product that actually does that, but also tap into the questions around what kind of information you can trust and you can't trust. Then we go into ethics as a second session. So ethics in AI, so looking at bias and how to handle that. And in the end, we will, together with a guest, look back at everything we heard, sort of go over all the session and lessons learned, but also from there, sort of project that into the future and see what will be next, and what kind of expectation we can have, both for corporate learning and for education. Because I will be joined by Chris Wildermus, who is a professor at a university in the States. So yeah, so for that, I think that's it for today. So indeed, Molly, thank you for organizing this, but also Karthik and Abby, thank you for presenting on this last session. And I hope to see all of you back tomorrow at the beginning of the first session.
Yeah. Thank you very much, everyone. And yeah, see you all tomorrow. And thank you, Casper. Have a good night, everyone.